What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Dipped in Tone. I'm Rhett.
I'm Zach.
And we got a really exciting episode today. I think every episode we do is exciting.
Right?
But
I mean, we're obligated to say that.
We are contractually obligated to say that every episode is exciting, and you should be happy to be watching us and listening and all that stuff. No, today we have Chris Shiflett on the podcast. Now, I'm particularly excited about this because Chris is a member of legitimately one of my favorite bands of all time, the Foo Fighters. Perhaps you heard of them?
They did that song Ever Wrong, right?
Yeah, they did that song. That's exactly the song they did.
No.
Yes, we got
how many people was that the first song they learned?
Oh,
you know, like,
that's a good question.
That was the first song my wife learned how to play on guitar, a drop D rock song. But I feel like, you know, I feel like a lot of people learned that one first.
Another question is, in terms of bands and catalog, what band do you think has the highest number of first song on guitars learned? Does that make sense? Like, if Everlong is like a hugely popular song to learn first, or like, I don't know, something like Hey Jude or something, like, who do you think it is? Is it the Beatles?
Probably the Beatles.
Nirvana?
It has to be the Beatles, maybe Metallica is up there.
Yeah, so it's got to be like on this list. It's got to be Beatles, Metallica, Nirvana, Zeppelin. Maybe not the Stones, actually. I don't think the Stones are, because the Stones don't have. Yeah, but compared to the Beatles, I think the Beatles have songs that are more easily approachable for complete beginners.
Right.
Until
you try to actually learn it, and you're like, "Shit, this is hard."
Yeah, shit's hard, man. Trying to sound like Keith is impossible. Anyway, so yeah, we got that coming up. Really excited. We have a really fun discussion with Chris, where we have an intervention with him on his current touring rig.
Yeah, he gets us back for judging.
Yeah, well, that's what we do here.
I don't think we were that harsh, were we?
No, maybe we weren't harsh. We were just, just telling him it's time to step into the 21st century,
And that's fine. We have a holiday break coming up.
Yep.
So after this, our next episode will be January 16th.
Yes.
Like our
so we're going to take a break.
Return.
Take a break for a couple of weeks, spend some time with the family, all that fun stuff, and then we're going to hit 2023 hard and fast. Yeah.
Just the way I like it.
Just the way I like it. How's your week?
Oh, it's been fine. We're kind of like, how do I say this? We've been recording a lot, getting ready for everything. So I feel like we just talked. But you and I have been sharing some Call of Duty fun, and that's been great.
Yeah.
And here's what I think. F all this, and let's just start streaming video games. Twitch, baby.
Hell
Bam.
Yeah. Twitch
reload.
Dipped in COD.
Ugh.
No, I don't like that. Yeah, we have been playing a lot of Call of Duty. Me, you, McKinley.
Yes.
McKinley's real good.
He's okay. So, sidebar, McKinley, fantastic guitar player, phenomenal guitar player.
He's unreal.
Hard worker, sweet guy, incredibly funny. But he always would say like how good he was at Call of Duty, and it's one of those things. It's like, I don't not believe him, but I had more witness to it. And then you and I, because what happens is we die, and then we just spectate McKinley.
Yeah, every game.
And he just murders everyone.
He's a menace, dude.
With such proficiency. I watched him the other night. We were playing real quick. Hold on, everybody. We were playing in this. We're playing Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, the War Zone, and we're in a little part of the map where the city's flooded.
Yep.
There's people all around him. He hides under the water. People walk into the room. He just shoots them in the back and then goes underwater like a goddamn alligator.
It was amazing.
It's just, it's so fun. But anyway, that's what
I
want to. I honestly want to try to stream some games. So if anyone out there would watch,
I have thought about, like, I don't know, because look, we're casuals. Okay, there's probably people that listen who are like that take this stuff real serious. We're not those people. We like to get on, have a few drinks, and just fuck around, and have fun. But I have thought about, like, what would it look like if we just released our gamer tags or something and had like a podcast night or a podcast party, I mean, it would be a shit show for sure, but maybe a fun shit show.
Who wants to see it? Let us know.
Who wants to see it? Let us know in the comments. Maybe we'll do that. Maybe we'll do that over the holiday break. We'll try it. Because you can play cross-platform, right? I'm on PlayStation. You're on Xbox.
That's right.
Okay. All right.
So wait, what's been going on with you?
More of the same. Trying to finish up a video course right now. Trying to get ready for next year. This is always the time of year where I'd like start to take stock of, okay, how'd the last 12 months go? What do I want to happen in the next 12 months? I think you do this as well.
Yeah.
And
we're
doing that
every day.
Yeah. Living in constant fear that this is all going to blow up and end, and I'm going to have to go work at Staples or something. No, I think just trying to get all the loose ends tied up, get this video course done, get geared up for next year, making a big step forward in the studio build. I got an electrician coming over tomorrow to take a look at everything, and going to try and get all the electrical stuff knocked out by the end of the year, which is not going to be cheap. But
oh no,
we this is what happens. Like, I put out a video course, and I can then use that money to build the studio. So if you want to support the studio build, RedShullGuitarCourses.com. Go buy a course. That money is going right into finishing that studio space. So
awesome. Well, something arrived in the mail. I have yet to mess with it yet, but I got some of those StewMac hot wound dual rail humbuckers, the Strat size ones.
Yes, you did.
Sent my way. Those are going to make their way into that 1982 Fender Stratocaster that my father bought and gave me, that has a vintage Floyd Rose and brass knob. It's going to be shred-tastic.
You know what's going to happen as soon as a certain RJ Ronquillo sees this episode? He's going to be knocking down your door to get his hands on that Strat.
Oh, he'd love that guitar. That guitar, it really is nice. So he would like.
Yeah, and that's right up his alley. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
That's it'll be on an RJ Ronquillo Saturday morning live stream near you very soon.
I wonder if he knows how to set up a Floyd Rose, because that would help. But anyway,
I think he does. I think he did a stream on it one time.
Surely he does. But anyway, so StewMac graciously is sponsoring these.
Wait, check this out. Hold on. Check this out.
What?
Speaking of how to set up a Floyd Rose in your guitar, if you ever need the parts and tools necessary to set up the Floyd Rose or whatever type of bridge you have on your guitar, check out the sponsor of today's episode, StewMac.
That's right. And you can go to stewmac.com/dippedintone, get 10% off your order. I was actually helping someone on the That Pedal Show Facebook group. They had a little bit of issue with one of their StewMac pedal kits. They were making the Sun Fuzz, which I assume is inspired by one very famous boutique fuzz pedal. But if you didn't know, StewMac also has these great pedal kits, and the instructions are very clear. They just made a really honest mistake that I have done in the past, but I was looking over these kits and looking at the circuit boards and how everything's laid out, and more importantly labeled. And oh man, it's so nice. It's just like everything says exactly where it has to go, and that's what you want out of any sort of kit you're trying to make. You want it to be easy to build. So they got it. Check them out.
The kits I built in the past, some of them have been less than easy to understand, and for someone like me who's not a professional pedal builder, I need like a color by numbers kind of thing. Like, take this thing and put it here, then take this thing and put it here. And seems like StewMac has got that covered. So link in the description, get 10% off your order. Thanks to StewMac for sponsoring today's episode. And my God, we are pros. That was the cleanest read we've done.
I don't know if I've ever heard Mark Maron. Guess what?
My
I'm coming for you.
Mark Maron, get a job, dude. Come on.
Seriously.
All right.
So yeah.
Awesome. Well, with all that out of the way, let's jump straight into our interview with Chris Shiflett, and we'll see you guys afterwards.
Okay.
All right. Chris, how's it going, man?
Good. How are you?
We're doing well. Thank you for joining us here on our humble little internet program.
Yeah, no worries. I had watched your review of my rig rundown, so I wanted to respond to your your
Fantastic.
aggressive critiques.
Oh, we'll get into that. We'll get into that. Don't worry. This is going to be a safe space for you to air out your grievances, and it's going to be good. I have to say though, before we get started, I think you have one of the best speaking voices of anybody we've had on the show thus far.
Oh wow! It must be my decade long run as a podcaster has prepped me for this moment.
Yeah. I think you got a future in commercial work, man. Just doing VO stuff for radio commercials for sure.
Sign me up. Sign me up.
Nice. Well, we're going to get into it. We got a couple of things that we wanted to talk about, but I think what we're going to do is, do we have a rig to dip, Zach?
Yeah. I do have one, so let me get that ready.
So I'm sure since you've seen us dip your rig, you're somewhat familiar with the premise, right, Chris?
I think so, yeah.
Basically, we have a patron, a follower who has submitted their rig. The rig has to be something that you would actually take to a gig, because we had an issue in the beginning where people were just sending us pictures of all their shit and it was just too much. So it's got to be a concise rig, guitars, pedalboard, amp setup that you would take to a gig. We're going to go through it. We're going to talk about the stuff we like, the stuff we don't like, and at the end, we're going to give it a rating. 1 out of 10 shoyles. Shoyles is a proprietary unit of measure that we created here on the show, and we'll go from there. And they're willingly submitting their rigs to be dipped, and so it's good, bad, and ugly. Let them have it.
Well, now, do you find that do people want you to, to be like harsh with them? Is that kind of what they're looking for?
I don't
or
know
are they
if they're
wanting a
looking
high
to get
five?
beat up necessarily, but just
I think
like,
they're looking for honesty.
Yeah.
Yeah,
just
like
well, I just want to point out, you guys really didn't pull any punches with my rig. You know what I mean?
Hey, I know.
You know,
listen, we're not scared. I think it was in good faith. We'll get into that in a minute. We're gonna start with that after we dip this poor soul's rig here. So
okay, let's
I
let's
got
have
an
a look.
interesting one here. So let's see if this. There it is.
Whoa.
Ooh.
Okay, so
This is different.
from Mr. It's very different. This is from Mr. Rob F. here. He said he's been playing guitar for a little over a year, and this is its current state of his setup. So he's got a Squire Affinity that he has had plecked, and new nut saddles. He's kind of hot rodded it a little bit.
He plecked a Squire?
He plecked his Affinity Squire, which is, I don't
It's a
know,
bold
kind of
move.
awesome.
Yeah.
And
wouldn't the plecking cost as much as, like, couldn't you just go buy an actual Fender?
yeah,
Or at least another Squire.
right. But hey, maybe it's like a really awesome guitar, right?
Okay, could be. Could be.
His amp, his main amp is the orange dark Micro 20. I think that's okay. Sorry. He runs that normally with the little cab beside the Squire.
Okay.
But he's added these two Zilla cabs, which are 2x12s.
Okay, right.
It looked like a 4x12 stack, but
Right,
then you
but
see it
then when
next
you
to
look
the
at
strap
that Squire,
body.
yeah, that's for Squire for scale. Yeah, that makes more sense. Okay.
And then with his pedalboard thing, he's got he runs into a JHS 3 Series fuzz, he's got a Polytune, a Tumnus Deluxe, a looper, and one of the Layla splitter boxes. I guess he switches between the orange and the little Joyo head up there for dirty sounds, and then he has one of those JHS black boxes as an attenuator, and this is it. This is his rig. So very interesting.
Okay. I just have to throw out first, I'm not familiar with a lot of this gear. So Zilla, I've never played through.
Zilla,
Joyo, I don't know.
Zilla is out of England. They make cabs for folks, fine people, great cabs.
Okay.
Kind of like they built really heavy duty, kind of like an orange cab sort of thing.
Yeah.
All right. I think we need to talk about maybe priorities here with Rob, because it seems like we're kind of getting out over our skis a little bit. So the Squire, I mean, starting with the guitar, that's a great starter guitar, and if it's been plecked, it's probably set up really, really well. For only playing for a year, I mean, look, man, I've played Squires. I've got a Squire Strat right now that's actually a damn good guitar, And, you know, we can drop pickups in there. We can upgrade electronics. We can do all kinds of stuff to make that work. So the Squire is interesting. I see he's got black pickup covers and controls here. Are those the stock pickups, or do we know?
It doesn't mention. Oh, no. He's changed some different manufacturer I've not heard of. Dylan McCurshey, Bonneville, Alnico's Alnico 5 Strat set. So he's hot rodded the electronics as well.
Okay. Pedalboard
But it's a bold move.
It's a bold move. The plecking's a bold move. I respect it. I respect the commitment to the Squire to say, I'm going to have this thing plecked and set up, and I'm sure it plays great. I think the pedalboard's probably a bit of a work in progress from what it looks like.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of, you know, a fuzz pedal, a Klon style pedal, a looper. Nothing as far as like time. I think there's there's something on the left there. I don't know what that is. The silver box with a couple knobs and a screen. But yeah, nothing time based or modulation-y. Just really straight. I mean, this looks like someone who's getting ready to just play some heavy riffs.
Right.
So I don't know. I think the it's so interesting, these two cabs with these tiny heads next to this guitar, just like playing at home, or it doesn't mention anything about having a gig. Or anything. It's just I mean, hey, if you have the room and no one is going to be bothered by it, why not?
I would say although I admire the simplicity of the pedalboard, that would be, I think it is, the problem for me in this rig, if there's a problem. And for all I know, like stylistically, I don't know what genre of music the owner of this rig plays, and maybe it's totally appropriate to that. But I think that the amp setup is way overthought here. I think you need one amp. If you've been playing guitar for a year and a half, I'm just going to assume you're kind of a beginner level, unless you're like some kind of insane prodigy or something. But I'd strip back. Let's get one amp, one cab. Just keep it simple.
I'm really confused.
On my you know, aesthetic sense here, black pickups on a seafoam green or whatever color Strat that is, I find a little aggressive.
It's a bit chaotic, if I'm honest. I agree with you there. It's not maybe what I would have gone with. But the cab thing is really confusing to me here. This is what I meant earlier when I said was talking about cart before the horse. I don't see the need for 4 12s in and like a full stack configuration.
Let's just be honest. When you've been playing guitar for a year and a half, you never need a full stack.
I mean, I've been playing guitar for 20 years, and I don't know that I need a full stack. You know?
No, I'm looking at. He actually runs each of these heads. The Joyo, which is like an import, you know, more affordable line, into one of the cabs, dirty, and then the orange, he's running more clean into the second cab. So each cab has its own amp. So, I mean, it's kind of like using 2 amps, but it just seems, like you said, Chris, it just seems like a lot.
I say ditch the whole amp setup and just use that little orange combo that's on the other side.
Right.
Yeah.
Or just one cab, you know?
Yeah, just maybe keep one of the cabs. Although I will say, on an aesthetic perspective, we need to kind of get on some kind of theme here. Either we're going to go with the big cab, we need a head that goes on top of that is somewhat similarly sized.
You don't need your backpack head. We don't want a backpack. We don't need one, much less 2 backpack heads. We need one big head if you're going full stack.
And from what I understand about those oranges, they're actually pretty good. The little, Terror series or Tiny Terror series. I mean, a lot of people want them. They sound great. Yeah. So I think we ditch the cabs. I think we ditch the Joyo. I think we get the orange with maybe a nice. I mean, he's got the small 112 cab there. I would go something with a little bit.
Than that. It's like a 1.8 or something.
I think you just solved it. Put the orange head on the little orange cab, and call it a day.
I would ditch all the cabs in this picture. Just get them all. Just get them out of there. And I'd get a decent like 112 cabinet. Put that orange on top of there. I'd swap the pickup covers back to white or some version therein. And I'd continue to develop the pedalboard setup. I think we need some time-based stuff. I think a delay or a reverb would be a good place to start. What 3 Series pedal was that? Was that the Fuzz?
It's the Fuzz.
Okay, that's a great Fuzz, $99. Really, really punches
I just
above
got
its
a
weight class there.
Tumnus from Wampler.
Yep.
The smaller version of it. It's like mini sized. So I'm assuming it's a similar thing to what he's got there, tone wise, and I love it. It's great. I put that right into my solo small board.
Yeah, the Tumnus stuff is really good. I think the board is well on its way there. I think we add a couple more things. The amp situation we need to rework a little bit.
It's a lot of cables. You might get phasing or like a ground loop if they're not plugged into the same.
I mean, if you're just starting out and you're playing bars or you're playing, I don't know where people play, keg parties or whatever, you know, you do not want to be lugging around a full stack. I mean, that's just, you know, you don't want anything bigger than like a Princeton or deluxe sized amp.
Well, he's kind of canceling out the portability of the orange head with these giant cabs, right? So it's like one of the main selling points of that little head is it is something you can throw in a gig bag basically, but you're just undoing all of that advantage by having the big cabs. So if you want to keep the big cabs, then let's drop the heads and let's get something up there that sounds right, looks right with that setup.
And get a couple more cabinets while we're at it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
why not just have 4? Let's get 4.
Fuck it. You know. All right. Well, okay. So this rig has some issues for me. We need. I think this might be a product of Zach. I fear that we might have contributed to this in some indirect way as guitar. Well, as people on the internet who talk about guitar stuff, it can be a little bit overwhelming for a new person jumping online and jumping into YouTube and trying to learn about guitar. It's like drinking from a fire hose. And I fear that maybe that might be where Rob is coming from here, where it's like, well, I need to get this, and I need to get this. It's like, well, hold on. I think priorities are a little out of order here. So, like we said, ditch the cabs, aesthetics on the Squire, continue to develop the pedal board. I'm going to give this 4.5 Shoyles.
Ouch.
Yeah, it's not working for me right now, unfortunately.
Okay. Chris, what are you thinking?
Out of a possible 10?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say I'm going to go solid 5. Just, you know, because you gotta figure if somebody's a year and a half into it, you know, you're just trying different things, and maybe you never know how people. I remember when I was a year and a half into playing, and you know, I was just borrowing stuff from my brothers, or you know, somebody left a guitar at a rehearsal, and you just played that for a while. You know what I mean? So it's that kind of thing.
Yeah, I think I'm right there with you. I think I'll give it a 5.5. Why not? I think, I mean, like if it were me, I would just ditch one of the cabs, both the heads, just get a really nice little head that you could switch the wattage and just grow that pedal board. Because I mean, you could do a lot with this, but do you need to? You know, that's the thing.
Yeah, I don't disagree. Maybe we keep the slant cab. It's a cool cab, looks nice.
Yeah.
Ditch the heads, develop the pedal board. Please put white pickup covers back on that Squire. The more I look at it, it's difficult. And you know what, Rob? You know, like props for sending this in, only playing for a year and a half. I'm excited. Here's what I would like Rob to do. And a year from now, I'd like him to resubmit where he's at a year from now. Because we, you know, when you're a beginner, that learning curve is really steep. And I imagine another year, another 12 months of playing, he's going to develop a lot more and start to develop that rig some more. So
he's going to go do one gig and he's going to lose that full stack real fast.
Right.
For sure. For sure.
That's a lot to fit in your car or whatever.
I think that's a lot to fit in your girlfriend's car. I think he needs to swap out that keyboard for a keytar while he's at it.
Right. Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Run that through the stack.
I'll tell you, my oldest brother. I have 2 older brothers, and my oldest brother, Mike, inexplicably when we were young, bought a Music Man full stack, and that was his amp. And then when I started playing in bands, I just took it, and then that became my band's PA for a short time, because they were, you know, it was like had endless headroom, and there were 2. You could put a speaker on each side of the gig. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I would like to put that in Rob's suggestion box. That, you know, maybe he's actually got himself a PA.
Yeah, easy to move, very very tameable on the volume. Yeah, all the things that you're looking for sure.
Yeah.
So, okay, speaking of rigs and dipping rigs, let's talk about it. So, what were your thoughts when you watched us dip your situation over there?
Well, my first thought was I've never seen people on a podcast or anywhere sort of react to another podcast appearance, or I guess the Rig Rundown isn't technically a podcast, but you know what I mean. So that at first I was like, that's interesting. This is like a brand new thing, and I've never seen it before. Let's see what these guys have to say. And so first off, let me put my hand up real quick and just throw out there, I am actually, and I'm overdue to go meet with him. I'm having Dave Friedman build me what he referred to when I first met with him about it as a big boy rig. Okay. And I think once we get that done, it's going to solve a lot of the issues that you guys brought up in your review of my rig, because I get it. Like my pedalboard in particular is probably a bit dated, and so I'm gonna have the full on MIDI setup and house the pedals off stage and do that whole thing.
So you're going like,
and so I'll be able to. So I'll be able to do like scene changes, and all that sort of thing, where you have multiple pedals come on here and there, because we do a lot of that, especially in Foo Fighters. I'm talking about my Foo Fighter rig, not my solo rig. My solo rig is, you might be able to even see it in the background here, because I'm at my little jam room studio right now. That's going to probably remain somewhat archaic and old school.
Right. Well, I'm interested to hear more about the solo rig in a minute. So, yeah, the thing was with the rig on the Premier Guitar Rig Rundown, I looked at that and thought, because I'm a fan, I love Foo Fighters. I saw you guys in Atlanta back in 2011. You guys headlined Music Midtown back then.
Oh, yeah.
Still
I remember that.
One of the best shows I've ever seen. It was fucking badass. Yeah, so... It came from a place of love. When I saw that pedalboard, I was like, I know how hard he's got to be working up there. And as a person who has had big rigs like that myself and had that kind of loop switcher before, you're just not doing yourself any favors by. And you even said it in the Rig Rundown. I watched the Rig Rundown. You were like, I'm having to tap dance and hit I can't jump on the things all at one time.
Yeah.
It's I think going to the MIDI switching thing. Have you ever had a rig like that before?
No, and I mean I'm really looking forward to it. I think for people like me, there's oftentimes a resistance to technological change. Not the least of which is because, it seems like with every new piece of gear you get nowadays, you have to learn a whole new digital language or whatever, So I think, and I think I may have said it in that Rig Rundown too. I didn't ever have pedals for a very long time. I've never been a very techie, gear centric player, and it's something that I've sort of become more interested in really in recent years. And I was just kind of I knew the amp that I liked, and I knew the guitar that I liked, and I just liked that pure kind of going straight into it thing. So when I started playing with Foos, which was of course a long time ago now, there's a lot of little bits of color here and there that over the years, every time you make a new record, you get a different pedal and you add it in there, and you need it for that one song. Right. If you maybe play it at the show, that kind of thing, and your pedal board just kind of grows. So I do like the idea, because I found myself over the years, we have some songs that have very specific delay settings that, Aurora has to be this very specific thing, Rope has to be a very specific thing. But most of the time it's it's not really that. It's just, a quarter beat delay, or 400 millisecond delay-ish, kind of thing. So I do like the idea of having a rig where I can just have it so, I press one button and a phaser and a delay and a boost come on at the same time, or whatever,
Sure.
Yeah, it'll change your life, honestly. I made that switch to a MIDI switching setup about 5 years ago was my first one I ever had, and before that I was just I had the Pedal Train Pro and way too many pedals. Like I had 5 or 6 different overdrives that were essentially all doing the exact same thing. I just thought I needed, different versions of it or whatever. And I just kept running into situations. I had 2 problems. One, I was running solderless cables on my board at the time, which were terrible, and they would always break. And without some kind of loop switcher, there's no way to, you talked about this in the rig rundown, how you can just isolate that kind of thing and your tech doesn't have to come out and figure it out on the fly. But the tap dancing thing, when you do have to go from, okay, the verse sound is a spring reverb and a slapback delay and a phaser and a compressor, and then I need to go from that and in one beat to just a fuzz and a dry sound. It's, a game changer being able to just punch one button and have it do everything for you.
Yeah, I look forward
to that. And
Dave
knows how to build a rig too. So
oh, for sure. I mean, I've been playing through his amps for years. So I trust his take on sort of how we should put this whole thing together.
So on the amp thing, how did you get? And I'm asking for myself here. How did you get your hands on 412 Vox cabs?
Through the kind people at Vox, yeah.
You just called them up and asked, and they built them for you?
Yeah, but, I mean, pretty much, yeah. Like, I had been using those hand-wired AC30s, as my AB thing between the Friedman. Mm-hmm. But when you have, like, even with a couple of them running up there, because, like Rob earlier, I have technically a full stack up on stage.
Right.
Of course, I'm not driving it there in the back of my Prius or whatever and having to load it in myself, but which is why I have it. Yeah, so it like changing between the AC30 and the Friedman when I had the AC30 combo just sounded weird on stage. It probably sounded fine in the house because you're just miking whatever one speaker, a couple of the speakers. But for standing there in front of it, it would be this. It would go from this huge sound of the full stack Friedman to like the AC30 always sounded really small to me up there, and so I wanted the AC30 sound, but coming out of 412s.
It looks badass too.
I love it.
The way that it's laid out. Those 412 Vox cabs. God, it looks so good.
It's funny. One of them, I don't know if you noticed, and I don't know if it's the one that's in the rig rundown, but one of them has a hole in it, and it was. I've never had it fixed because it was burned in there by a laser.
Oh yeah.
We had, I don't remember how it happened, but we had some sort of laser thing in our live show, and somehow it burned a hole through the mesh on it, and I was like, wait, the lasers that we use on stage can literally burn a hole in you? Who the fuck knew that?
It stayed still long enough.
Yeah.
Are you running all those on? Like, are they all on for the stage?
No, I should do that. I've done that kind of thing before, on a smaller level, but no, I always just A/B between them. But there was a time with my solo thing years ago when I took out, like, I had a deluxe reverb on one side and an AC15 on the other, and I was running them together, and those two sounds really complement each other well.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, the Vox kind of filling in the mid-range that the Deluxe is scooping out, and
and then you start adding in like some ping pong delays to that, and that can be very cool.
Yeah, I think so. Your new rig, you're going to have just a floor controller, and all the pedals and everything are going to live in a rack case and shelves and everything off side stage.
I think so. We're going to try to make it as clean as possible, which I'll be honest, gives me a little anxiety. There's something about not having your pedal right in front of you. Mm-hmm. So just in case, because it is, those things move around, especially when you're touring. So, we'll see how that goes. There's going to be a bit of a learning curve there. I'm going to have to learn to trust, my tech to make sure that it's not all fucked up. But I love my tech. I'm just making fun.
Yeah. Also, you're one of the people that, like myself, you're a fan of the Deco, Strymon Deco.
Yes.
Which I still think is one of the most slept on pedals out there. And I think it's kind of Strymon's fault. I don't think they've done a great job of really explaining what that pedal is and what it does. And And you talked about this in your rig rundown, how it's a sort of an always on thing for you, right?
It has been recently. So my buddy Alex, this is a long convoluted story, but a buddy of mine named Alex, who was over at my studio doing some work for me, noticed that I had one on the shelf, because I had one of those a few years ago on my board. It's probably more than a few years ago now. But he goes, "Oh man, you ever do that thing where you set it so that you get that like wet dry slap thing?" I was like, "Wait, what? I didn't even know it did that." I didn't know that this turned me on to a whole thing with all these Strymon pedals, that I didn't realize that there are like these special ways that you can set them to do different things than just sort of what you think they do. So he goes, "Oh yeah, check this out," and we put it on my board, and he showed me what he was talking about, and I mean, it's just instant, like your guitar just gets huge with that, because you just got the tape slap coming out of one, and I set it almost right on top of each other, just barely offset, But I'm not even really using it as a slap. It's almost, I use it more as like a delay chorus or something,
Yeah, because it can go from like flange to chorus to double tracker to tape slap to full on tape echo.
Yeah,
just with that one time knob.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
So that, and then I've been messing around with those, I forget what it's called on the timeline, but the sort of ping-pongy delays. And when you get them all going at the same time, that's just like, that's a really big, nice, wide tone.
The top of the rig rundown on premierguitar.com, it has your stripped 57. So you entered, like, you're now in the echelon of players who effectively have a burst. I mean, it's not,
Right.
Not was never, and unless you get it refinished. Like, what has that been like? What has that taught you about like the golden era of those guitars? Or had you had a lot of experience with that era of Gibson Les Paul and whatnot?
Not a ton. I've never owned one from that era. I've picked up the odd 59 here and there when I've encountered them, as well as 56, 57, 50, whatever. All those kind of surrounding years. I think the difference, I mean, that guitar sounds amazing. It's just got a clarity to it that is just, it's hard to explain, but it's just different. It's just different than any other Les Paul that I've got, and certainly different than anything that's modern. I don't know what it is. I'm sure somebody could probably explain the science behind it. There's something about those guitars. The wood feels light. They're obviously very lived in and worn in. And it just, at first when I got it, I think I talk about it in there, I just intended to just keep it at the studio. But, Pat was like, "What are you talking about, dude? You got to play that thing. Bring it on the road." Are you crazy? Yeah, so I pretty much take it everywhere we go now.
Right. And do you know if it had been, I mean, obviously it's had a lot of work done in its life.
Yeah.
But do you know, like, the pickups are original and all that stuff too?
Yeah. Pickups are original, and I don't know its history. I don't know who owned it. I don't know why whoever owned it took the paint off. There's a pretty nasty headstock repair on it that I could fix, but I don't think I'm gonna fix. Just because I just like the way the guitar sounds, and I just don't want to mess with it.
Yeah.
But I like. I know it's not the same thing, but I like that it reminds me of the Mick Ronson Les Paul. Because
Yeah.
He took the paint off too, but yeah.
It's kind of the perfect storm for a vintage guitar like that. Like it's player grade in the sense that most sort of collectors would maybe turn their nose up at it because it's been stripped and it's had the headstock repair, but from what it sounds like, it's kind of got all the makings of a truly great Les Paul. It's lightweight. It's got the pickups. Yeah. It's the right wood. It's the right year. And because it's kind of been through the ringer, it's, ready to go on and live the next chapter of its life in one of the biggest rock bands of all time. I mean, that's pretty badass, Yeah.
Well, and it's exactly, it's got all those things, but at the same time, if somebody spills beer down it, I'm not going to stress too hard. You know what I mean? So it's like the perfect guitar to have out on the road.
Yeah.
And that was something you had always kind of dreamt of or Did you know like
Spilling a beer on
a
a 57 Les Paul?
No.
It's been a fantasy all these years.
Through this thing. But no,
it's an occupational hazard, man. No, it's funny, man. For the longest time, I used to sort of pride myself on this idea, like I don't need all those, I think just I didn't have any money, so
right.
I just always kind of was like, I always kind of had a snooty, or I always thought people that were like super gear centric were a little snooty for my tastes. But then I got some old gear and I was like, wow, this is fucking really good, man. Wow, I see what they're talking about. I shouldn't have spent all those years buying brand new shit. But I always kind of had this mindset of like, I just want something I can take out and thrash. And, I was playing in like punk rock bands and Foos is like a big loud rock band. I just, I always had that, I sort of came of age as a player in the late 80s into the 90s. And it was an aggressive time for guitar players, Yeah. I mean, I think about my guitar playing style and how it's evolved over the years. Like my right hand used to just be fucking bloody every gig. All right here. Because you're just playing music where you're just fucking hammering the guitar, with like 11s and really heavy picks and super hot pickups and just going, all that stuff, And I think as I've matured over the years, I've gotten a lighter touch.
Right.
And so maybe I appreciate the nuances of that beautiful old gear a little more. I always liked it, but I was always into the vintage stuff in a sense, aesthetically. I just never owned any of it.
Well, I think you're not far off with the idea that the vintage gear world can be very gatekeepy and sort of snooty, and coming from a player's perspective, when you don't have any money and you're playing in bands and trying to make it work, the idea of spending like 30, 40 grand, 100 grand on a guitar or something is just unfathomable.
It's unattainable, for the vast majority of people. But also you spend your whole life like, trying to hang out in guitar stores and being chased out by the people that work there who are never ever nice. It's sort of, it just made me go like, well, fuck you people.
Yeah. Well, I think some people get off on the like unattainable factor. Like that's for some of the vintage guitar world, I think that's really the appeal. It's like, I struggle with the collector thing, because in some ways it's really cool. Like we have some friends that are collectors where to them it's more about like preserving the history and preserving the story and being stewards of these instruments and bringing them into the next generation. Then there's the other side of it, which is sort of the like we talked about, the fact that it's unattainable and all that kind of stuff. And it seems like your approach to your instruments is that these are tools for a job, and it doesn't matter if it's something you just got off the line from Fender or your 57. It's a tool for a job and it fills a need
for sure. And you can't baby them, and in like rock and roll you can't, things have to be, that's why Gibsons and Fenders are built the way they're built. These things have to be built tough. You have to be able to drop them and not worry too much about them.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
Well, I was just going to ask, so on that note, like you talk about how for a long time you were a guitar, cable, and amp kind of guy. And over the past, several years or time with the Foo Fighters, that you've kind of grown into becoming more of an effects user. So can you talk about your approach to effects? Is it something where you guys are in the studio and you're just messing around with sounds and then you find a sound that inspires a part? Or is it the other way where you have an idea in your head of what you want something to sound like and then you go about trying to get that out of the speakers?
Oh, it's really both, I think. I think it usually starts with a reference point, something in your head that you're trying to find. And then depending on who's in the room, who's producing, who's engineering, which ones of your bandmates are around, everybody sort of starts weighing in on stuff, and then it evolves into something else. That to me is on the studio side of playing is like the funnest part of what we do, or what any musician does. It's that thing of like going into the studio with with an idea, and then everybody throws their thing on it, and it just evolves, and becomes this whole other thing. And it's 9 times out of 10, it's better than the way you pictured it in your head. And that's like, with all the different people we've worked with over the years, or I've had the pleasure of working with over the years, it seems like every album you make, or every time you're in the studio, somebody's got a cool old flanger or an Echoplex or something that you kind of go, I gotta get my hands on one of those,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what you were talking about, how for your solo stuff, because you just had a single that came out just a few months ago, right?
Yeah, and I've got an album that I should plug that's coming out next year. So we're gonna start putting out some tracks from that here pretty soon.
Awesome. But the rig on that is obviously, because it's a totally different vibe and style.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I couldn't see it in the back there, but what is your normal setup for some of that, some of that style stuff?
Well, for the stuff that I've been recording lately, I've been recording out in Nashville. Those 2 songs that I put out over the summer, and then the album that I made, I pretty much approached them the same, where I would fly out there to go record, and I would bring with me, I think I have it right here, actually. Hold on one second.
Yeah.
And I would bring this.
Ooh.
Oh,
Yeah.
What's that?
So I would bring, this is a Fender custom shop. You can see it's got the nice custom shop thing on the wall. If I wasn't so well lit, you'd be able to see that.
That ring light's doing work, man.
Yeah. This is like, I bought this out in Nashville years ago when Foos were out there recording a song at, see the ring light reflect in there?
Yep.
It's amazing.
Look at you.
The halo.
You're basically a YouTuber now, man.
Yeah, I bought this when we were out there recording at Zach Brown's place for that Sonic Highways record. This was at Groon, and it's supposed to be, I think, a 53, but, I don't know when it was built, sometime in the 2000s. But this has been my go-to Tele, really, for my solo thing for a while, and I would bring this with me to record out in Nashville for all this new stuff. And then my pedal board, and I would usually just cram as much stuff. I'd bring like one of those red, like I think I have it on my Foo Fighter rig, one of those red Klon, newer
the KTR.
Klon thing.
Yep.
Yeah, that's the one. And then a bunch of the stuff that is probably on there, a micro Pog, EP boost, stuff like that. But I would record my stuff just through whatever amps were at the studio, pretty much. I recorded a couple songs with Vance Powell, and I think those are through his deluxe reverb. And then my new album was produced by Jaron from Cadillac 3, and he would just and we did it in like 3 or 4 different recording sessions, and he would just bring one of his amps. I don't even remember what it was, some boutique-y cool little thing that he had, and I don't think it was the same from one session to the next, but and I would just do that. Yeah. There's a certain I don't know, there's a certain a freedom in not overthinking that stuff too much too, Like if something sounds good, just that, then you don't have to do that thing where we played through 300 JMPs until we found the right one, I mean, you can do that, but you don't have to. And also, I don't think it's on. I didn't bring it out to record, but I've been playing this one a lot lately, man. This one is my main go-to.
I love a Paisley Tele.
I know, and I love that whoever did this tried to make it look like it's an old one that's faded.
Yeah,
so cool.
But it's not.
That is so cool.
Yeah, this is some weird parts guitar called, you can see sort of, it says King Relics. I don't even know what that is. And then on this side it says Fender, but I think it's like a Fender.
Oh, yeah. It's,
don't show them that.
Yeah. We'll blur that out.
Well, as long as it says Fender, they don't care. As far as the world concerned, I'm playing a Fender.
That's true.
Yeah.
So you recorded with Vance. Was that at Sputnik, his place?
It was. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Wait, are you guys in Nashville? Where are you guys?
I'm in Nashville.
I'm in Atlanta.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And I'm always interested to hear about the studio side of stuff as well. And I think you're right. There's a big thing about, just working fast and committing to an idea. I think and not spending a ton of time going through every single option and every single, speaker or cabinet or whatever, just to get, it's like, okay, this sound works. I have this idea. Let's put this down and move on.
Yeah.
Is that mostly how you like to work when you're in the studio?
Well, I think I was sort of thinking of it like, it sounded good. We're just getting basic takes. I knew if I needed to, or if I, if I felt like it after the fact, I could always just redo my guitars. As long as because when tracking with Jaron was I'm playing guitar, Charlie Warsham's playing guitar, a dude named Nate Ketterly, I think is how you pronounce his last name, was playing guitar as well. So there'd be the three of us, and as well as drums, bass, and keys on some of it. And really, more importantly, was that we capture, good takes of the song. But really, most importantly, was what everybody else was doing. Because I could always take my stuff home and tweak on it, which I did, and I would add stuff to it and redo, this and that. And maybe, I think I recorded probably most of my guitar solos for the record, after the fact. Not all of them. I did. There's one on the record that me and Nate sat down and worked out a full on, Thin Lizzy, Leonard Skinner guitar-many,
nice,
full on harmonizing thing that was really, really fun to record. But yeah, obviously Jaron knows tone and knows guitar and all that stuff. So he brought down great little combo amps that sounded great, and it was never an issue, and it just sounded good. So yeah.
Were you guys live tracking?
Yeah.
In the room.
Bunch of Nashville hotshots, man. Those guys get it quick.
Oh, yeah, they work fast up there.
I'm always the one in those sessions that's like, wait, when does the bridge come? What are we doing? Because somebody chart, how do you read this chart?
Yeah.
Right. What, Nashville number what?
Yeah. No, it's the beauty of recording out there, and especially with all the folks that I've recorded out there with over the years, but the crew that Jaron assembled was just fantastic, and those guys really bring a lot to it. I love having multiple guitar players on it, because everybody's doing something totally. We none of us play like the other one, and so it's like the guitar parts that those guys are working out are just things that I wouldn't ever think of. It's great.
So on that, I'm glad you brought up the Sonic Highways record, because that came out in 2014, I think, 13, 14, something like that.
Something like that.
I watched, so I was 24 at that time, and I just started interning at a recording studio. And when the series came out, I think it was HBO or something that you guys did the documentary series with. That was huge for me, because, I wanted to, I started working at the studio, and I wanted to learn about this, and being able to watch you guys go to all these different studios and show how different every single one was from another, and how each space sort of inspired a different song and a different sound. Can you talk about what that experience was like, and maybe what your favorite place was that you guys tracked at?
Yeah, it was hard to pick a favorite. It was really an exciting thing to go do. If memory serves, we would be in each town for about a week, and we would have about a week between each trip, so it was spaced out nice. We started in Chicago in the winter time, which was cold as hell. So I remember, that's people always ask, what was your favorite city? And it's not really fair, because the first couple were just fucking freezing our asses off. We're in Chicago in the snow. Nothing against Chicago, but
right.
By the time we got to Nashville, it was a little warmer. So yeah, and we, everywhere we went to were great towns. Austin was super fun. New York, and then out in the desert here. So the whole thing was a treat, and I think you knew that you were doing something that was we'd never made a record like that. We're never gonna make a record like that again. It's just this total one-off, and it was fun.
Yeah, I loved it, man. I thought it was fantastic, and it really kind of lit a fire under my ass for wanting to get. It was, I think it was being able to watch people actually in. It was the first time I was able to watch people actually in a studio working and kind of getting a feel for what that environment can be like, and sort of the collaborative nature of it, and how important the space is, I think, to the sound. So it was really amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I think a big part of recording is of course, it's how you feel. It's why when you're in a band for a long time and you have a comfort zone with all your bandmates, and oftentimes you're working with people who you know well and everything, and it's a big part of it, to be because recording, you're vulnerable, and you're, especially when you're throwing out ideas and trying to find something. It's like when sometimes it's just quick and easy, and sometimes it's not, and it's like, you really, where you're at in your own head has so much to do with what you're able to do creatively, and so your environment, plays a big part of that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, we got some questions from some of the patrons who are watching, and there was one really good one came in from Chris asking.
That's me. I'm asking myself. I'm throwing myself a softball.
You got into Discord and you.
Yeah.
What advice would you give your younger self about gigging, seeing as you've been gigging for so long? Like, what would you tell yourself?
Turn your amp down.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. You're driving the sound man fucking crazy. Turn your amp down, goddammit.
What
I think
probably
the biggest advice, I would give my younger self would be, I don't know if this is good advice or not, because everything just feels like it means everything when you're young and you're starting out, and I would probably advise myself to not take it all so seriously. But then again, that's like kind of the thing that gets you where you want to go. Is like every gig's like, this is the one. It's funny. I was just listening to a buddy of mine texted me yesterday and asked me to send him this demo that my band had made like in the late 80s. This is a buddy of mine that I grew up with, and he was just like, "Oh man, I haven't heard that since then. Send it to me." So I was like looking that up in on my computer, and I found this this rehearsal recording of my band from 1990, and I'm not exaggerating, dude. There's like a 3-minute guitar solo in it that just goes forever, and it's so spazzy. Every second of it is just like just like the whole time. And I'm like, I can't even play guitar like that anymore. Like the 90s killed that ability in me. You know what I mean? But I guess that would be some advice, like take a breath. You don't have to do every lick every time.
Yeah.
Well, it's when you're young, it's so you want to. I mean, I know for me, I wanted to be the star of the show, and so my amp was loud, and I was only focused on me and not the band and my friends I was playing with. It was really self-centered, and it's so hard to get yourself out of that.
Yeah. Also, listen to the drummer. That's good advice for everybody in the band. Listen to the drummer.
Yeah. I would add on to that, as a guitar player, even for young guitar players, learn how to play bass. That's what taught me how to really listen to the drummer. Was when I had to actually, because I did play bass on a few gigs, and my number one goal was to not sound like a guitar player on bass.
Strums.
Yeah. So when I finally did that, I had a holy shit moment of realizing I had never actually been listening to the rhythm section when I was playing. I was just playing on top of everything.
Totally.
So listen.
I figured that out like in my 30s. So you're ahead of the curve.
So as sort of a follow up to that, it's you, Dave, and Pat, I think, are in many ways it's a master class in guitar part writing. How in that band everyone has their own space, and it doesn't encroach on each other, and it adds to this huge sound, which I know to be incredibly difficult to do and pull off. So what is your approach there when you're working on new material with Foo Fighters? Like, how do you find your space in terms of your parts and what you're playing?
Yeah, it really goes song to song, you just don't want to step on anybody else, and you don't want to step on the vocal. And like kind of what you were talking about before, like it is, you do kind of have to like check your ego a little bit with that. Like, it's not about, look at this fancy part that I came up with. It's like you always have to remind yourself to serve the song. So as long as that's sort of your guiding light, then you just kind of work it out. I mean, for me, like, just like on a practical side, like if we're recording something, I just like try to be in a different part of the neck even than what everybody else is doing, just so you're not just. And then, there's some songs where you just want to, we want to all be hitting the same power chords, in unison or whatever. That has a thing too. But then there's other parts where it kind of splits up, and we're all kind of doing different things in different spots, and it's all weaving together, and that's nice,
Yeah, I think people forget that, the notes repeat up the neck, and playing chords or anything in a different position, even if, technically it's all the same notes, they're going to sound very different and balanced differently when you're playing with other people.
And then there's like, everybody's just got their own feel of how they do it. And I know, like, I recognize certain patterns that I often go to,
Right.
And I tend to think of like rhythm parts as almost like, you're moving around the chord, not just necessarily hitting the chord all the time. It's upstrokes and downstrokes and picking out certain accents and all that sort of stuff, just to give it like a, peaks and valleys.
Right. Yeah.
Nice. I think that makes a lot of sense.
I remember before I was in Foo Fighters, I was in a band called No Use for a Name, right? And this was the 90s, and it was like, we were on Fat Records. It was like, punk rock, 90s punk rock kind of thing. And I remember the first time we were working on new material with them, when we were making the first record that I made with them. Tony, who was the singer and the other guitar player, was like, oh, wow, we've never had a guitar player that played like the full chords. Like, because I was not, would try not to just be playing power chords. I'd be playing just even simple stuff, just major and minor chords. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
but like because so many, a lot of that style of music was just ones and fives.
Yeah. Right.
So even just that, just a little extra voicing, a little extra color, can kind of go a long way.
So when you're writing parts for your solo stuff or for Foo Fighters or whatever, what is it? Are you considering theory and harmony at all? Or are you just working off of your ear and what works best, and then possibly going back and figuring it out after the fact?
Yeah, I mean the first songs I ever learned was in a Beatles songbook,
Right.
So like, I think you can't separate that from your playing, because it's like, you're sort of thinking in terms of, like, I didn't go to music school. I didn't spend a whole lot of time taking lessons. I'm not a super, theory kind of player, but you can't remove yourself, from that. That's just where,
Right.
Everything. I mean, I wish I maybe had a little more knowledge so I could get away from just the obvious stuff. But yeah, it's just the thirds and fifths and sevenths and all that stuff. Is of course, you're thinking about how certain notes rub against what everybody else is doing. And yeah, I guess I'm not necessarily thinking about it in real time, but that's coloring everything.
Right.
Yeah. Well, as we're kind of wrapping it up, what's coming up for you? You said you got some, an album and some singles coming up.
Yeah, I'm actually, I've got, my band is about to walk in the door right now, because we've got our last rehearsal today, and then we're going to go open up for Social D out in Tempe this weekend. And then I got a bunch of gigs in December, some like, my own bar shows, and then a few of them I get to go open up for Social D. And then I think we're going to start putting out some new music around the end of January, hopefully, if we can cross all our T's and dot all our I's in time and make that deadline. But yeah, I should have a new record coming out later in the year. It's all done. It's just, it's just sort of getting all the details complete, finishing the artwork and, all that sort of stuff. You know what I mean?
Well, I got one question to end on here, and it's sort of a recurring theme with our guests. So, hypothetical situation. You got to go to a gig. And you can choose one or the other. You can choose a super nice, expensive, well-made, high-end guitar going into a really, really cheap, bottom-of-the-barrel budget amp. Or you can go the opposite way. You can go with cheap, entry-level guitar that is set up well, so the guitars are both playable and they're both, you can do what you need to do on them. You can go cheap guitar, but into a really high-end, expensive amplifier. Which way do you go and why?
I would probably go. I mean, my signature model through Fender is an entry-level guitar. Could I take that one into a nice fancy amp?
Well,
I would take the cheap guitar as long as it works.
Yeah, it's gonna work.
It's gonna work. It's not gonna short out or anything.
No.
I'll probably go with that. Yeah.
Intonated and then into the expensive amp.
Yeah. Is it like a plecked Squire with black?
Yeah.
Might as well be, right?
You know what I mean? And then I'm taking that all day into like my Friedman, full stack. I feel like I would probably be more comfortable with an amp that sounds really good, and I could just suffer through, whatever is happening on the guitar side.
I appreciate
you
saying
the word suffer.
You're settling an internal debate here at Dipped in Tone Industries, and I'm happy to report that I'm 2 for 2 on this one. So
wow,
nice.
I just like I can make any amp work for the most part.
Yeah, sure.
There you go. You go. It's all in your hand, boys. All in your hands.
Tones in the hand, brother.
Yeah.
Chris, I appreciate you coming on, man. Thanks. It's been great talking to you, and we'll keep an eye out for that solo stuff coming out.
Yeah, man.
Where can people go to learn all about it?
I have a website. It's chrisshiflettmusic.com, and I'm probably more active on like Instagram and whatnot than that.
Is that just at Chris Shiflett?
Yeah.
Okay.
Nice.
No, it's at Shifty71. That's what it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, they'll put your name in. They'll find you.
Yeah, they'll find
there
you.
You go. Just Google it. Come on.
Awesome. Thanks, man.
All right, you guys.
So wasn't that fun?
Right. That was amazing. Honestly, like we talk about this a lot, but if you'd have told me 5 years ago that you and I would have a podcast and we would get to talk to the people that we're getting to talk to on this show, I wouldn't have believed you. It's mind-blowing.
You didn't even know me 5 years ago.
I didn't know you existed 5 years ago.
When are you going to have a podcast with this guy? Like, I don't know that guy.
But no, we're still working at Carter Drink, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Okay, so I probably there's probably a situation that happened where I was in town for a gig or rehearsal or something, because I used to go to Carter a lot, drink, and you probably tried to help me with something, and little did we know that fate and destiny would bring us together to create the most prolific and visionary and inspired guitar podcast to ever hit the airwaves.
My brain's exploding. But
God,
yes,
I can't wait for your comments on that.
It's so awesome to get to talk to somebody who has created so much music that we both have enjoyed. But it sounds like it was, I've always enjoyed the Foo Fighters ever since I learned about them, like in I guess middle school, or so. But it seems to be that it was a much more significant band for you and your guitar and rock and roll journey. That Music Midtown show in 2011, I still point to as being one of the best and most influential shows I've ever been to, because it was right when I was finishing up music school and about to become a professional guitar player. And I remember watching Chris on that stage, and I remember what his rig looked like. It's different than what he's got now. Yeah. And just being like, dude, that's what I want to do. I want to
want to play in a rock band. And there was an interesting moment in that show that I wanted to bring up with him, but that European crowds will do this a lot, where in a low moment in a song or in the set, the crowd will start to sing the melody or sing the hook back to the band. And I remember that happened at Music Midtown in Atlanta, and Dave Grohl got on the mic and said that was the first American crowd ever that had done that organically just started chanting and singing the hook back to them. It was a cool moment.
That's awesome. That's so awesome. Yeah. But yeah, Chris is a great guy, and what a fun hang. I would love to actually hang in person sometime. Maybe one day.
I want to catch one of his live shows, one of his solo shows. We'll have that link down below. We'll have his website and everything linked, so you can look up his tour dates, see if he's coming to a town near you, and go show some support. So, speaking of,
Absolutely.
you want to get our shill of the week going on?
I will. I've got one, and I don't believe I've shown this. If I have, I don't know. Sue me. This is the Wonder Drive from
Oneater.
Oneater. From Wonder Effects, and Nick he used to be in a punk rock band called the Swellers, which is that somehow missed me in my punk rock days. I think it might be a little too old, but really cool drive. This thing, he says it's really made for stacking, and it works really well stacked with other stuff, but it's a really cool, just a volume gain, and then it has like a voicing switch and can do a whole lot of stuff, and it's different and unique, and yeah, he's a hell of a nice guy, and makes some cool stuff. So check out Wonder. I thought it was Oneater because That Thing You Do is one of my favorite rock and roll movies.
The Oneaters.
Yes.
Captain, what is it? Captain Geach and the Shrimp Shack Shooters?
Captain Geach and the Shrimp Shack Shooters. Oh, I'm not here with these boys. We got a pig over there in the livestock pavilion. We're going to win that blue ribbon.
Oh, man. He's got a great TikTok, by the way, Nick.
He does.
Wonder. Yeah, his TikToks pop up on my feed all the time, and they're legitimately great. He puts a lot of work and effort into them, and they're really good. So if you're on TikTok, go follow him.
Check him out. What you got?
My shill is actually what you are viewing through right now. I finally bought a new camera and lens setup. I've been trying to upgrade I've been wanting to upgrade for the better part of a year. I shoot on Sony stuff, so Sony. I've been using A7 IIIs forever, and finally bought an A7S III, and you can't tell because we're streaming and it's going through 1080p and it's going through my Stream Deck and all this stuff, but it is legitimately a mind-boggling camera. It ain't cheap. I paid full pop for it and a lens. I bought a 24-70 G Master lens 2.8.
I gotta look this up,
dude. But when I unboxed it, and anybody that shoots on Sonys, you know that they don't have flip around screens, except this one does. So I finally have a flip around screen, which is amazing. And
the 7C does too, as well.
Yeah, the 7C, but the A7 IIIs don't, which is what I've been using for years. Yeah, it ain't cheap. Tax write-off.
Well, at least there's that.
Hey, hell yeah.
Thank God.
It's like that scene in Schitt's Creek. It's like, it's a write-off. Well, what's the write-off? It's like, well, yeah. So anyways, I'm really excited about it. Camera nerd stuff, but I realized I needed one when we were at NAMM this year, and was hanging out with Paul Davids, and Paul was shooting on this exact rig. So yes, I did rip off Paul Davids on this because he filmed me. Actually, he might have had a different lens, but he filmed me for this video, and then I went back and watched the video when he posted it, and it was like, holy shit, that looks amazing. Like, I always knew the S3 was an upgrade, but when I saw his footage of it, I was like, oh, yeah, it's a big step up. So,
man, I wish I knew how to use this stuff. I just plug it in and hope for the best. So, well, again, we want to thank StewMac for sponsoring this episode and the previous episodes. They've been great. And just remember, if you need to do anything on your guitar, go to stewmac.com/dippedintone, get 10% off that order. Yeah. And also check out their YouTube, because
I was just about to say,
man, and their Instagram is crazy. They've got Asher Guitars is showing a restoration of a Weizenborn like slide guitar, steel guitar,
Mm-hmm.
and it's so interesting. And then the guys, making these videos are very informative, and they show you what they're doing and how to do it. Not that you want to dive into a turn of the century Weizenborn restoration yourself if you don't know what you're doing.
No, you do.
But
you do.
check out all the stuff that StewMac produces. They're great content, good people, and great products. That's why all the pros use them. I mean,
Yeah, Dan
that's it.
Earlywine is he has forgotten more about guitar repair and restoration than most people will ever know. And there's a ton of videos featuring him on their channel. And then a personal friend of mine, Chris Alvarado. Chris and Matt from Driftwood Guitars are now taking over and producing a lot of content over there on StewMac's YouTube channel. So it's cool. I've known those guys, or I've known Chris since I was 16. So it's cool to see them
Awesome.
jump up and start doing that stuff. So
Yeah. Check it out.
Well, anyways, enjoy the holidays, everyone. Have a good
Yes.
new year. And we will see y'all in a few weeks in 2023. Remember, hard and fast. That's the motto for 2023.
All right.